Nine so much for being with us today. And I would now like to welcome OpenText. We have Craig Valera here with us today. OpenText will be discussing Content Aviator for smarter organizational content interactions and insights. Craig, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you, Sasha, and I appreciate everyone joining us today. Let me go ahead and share my screen. I just want to know if you could see that.
It looks great.
Awesome. So again, thanks everyone for joining us today. I think this is a great topic, and I think it's something that Dan mentioned earlier. There's definitely, I don't know if we're at the peak of the hype cycle as it relates to Gen AI, but there's definitely a lot of interest and churn going out there in the marketplace around this subject. So I'd like to talk to you a little bit about that today. My name is Craig Valera. I'm a solution consultant with OpenText. I've been with the company about 15 years, but in the enterprise information management space for better part of about 30 years or so. If you don't know anything about OpenText, we're a global leader in information management solutions. We have lots of different business units. I happen to represent the business unit called Enterprise Content Services, and that's where we have solutions like enterprise content management, electronic capture and IDP, BPM solutions, and so forth. Really, the ability to manage, automate, and govern unstructured information in an enterprise. So today, I'd like to talk to you a little bit about this phenomenon that we're talking about called intelligent content. So I'm sure a lot of you have used content management solutions in the past and are aware of its value, the ability to put metadata on content, the ability to put full text indexing on content so you can find things. And we've heard some things about capture that help lean into those solutions like that. The ability to secure things and get audit around them. Again, really about governance, also being able to manage retention and long-term preservation of content. But the intelligent part, while we've been working on some of that in the last number of years in terms of being able to extract data from content, this notion of generative AI is really going to take things to the next level in terms of being able to extract in ideally a meaningful way and a really easy to use way than maybe we've done in the past, intelligence out of the content so we can go do some work with that. So, one of the things I think we've heard about today, it's not that AI is this new sort of capability. AI has been around for a long time. AI has been around for a long time as it relates to content management. We've had AI solutions that have been able to look at documents, read them like a human being, extract sentiment out of them. We've been using machine learning around capturing IDP solutions for years, being able to figure out, is this a contract, is it an invoice? And then based on that, what fields or what information do I want to pull off of that? And then perhaps what business process do I want to put them through once I've determined that? All of these AI capabilities that preceded Gen AI is just going to make generative AI better in terms of being able to allow the Gen AI tool to have more information to base its answers on, making sure that you curate content properly. And we're going to use that word a lot today because it is important as you look at the difference between consumer level AI tools like Copilot, like Gemini, and so forth, versus tools that need to be pointed at enterprise content that has historically been governed and controlled and secured. There are going to be different generative AI concerns around that as it relates to privacy or whether it relates to regulations or things like that. So, if you look at the must-haves when you're looking at Gen AI in the enterprise against an enterprise content repository, these are the kinds of things we tend to look at. So first and foremost, we want to make sure that we organize things properly. And a lot of those things have been done just part and parcel to the way the content management systems work. The other is making sure that we get people a single source of truth. So the promise of an enterprise content management system has always been, can I reduce duplication, encourage reuse of content, put enough context around that content so people can find it and use it properly. If you look at that third bullet point there, relentlessly label information, that's where capture came in the old days to ensure that we got enough information about that document. So when we went to find it later, we didn't have to just rely on hunting and pecking through folders or doing full text searches. We could find everything that someone created on a given day related to a particular customer. And then all the things that are around that, how are those things secured? Can we tie it to a business process? And this is the notion of integration that we like to talk a lot about at OpenText, which is while we think we have a really nice UIs ourselves, users kind of want to live where they want to live. That could be inside an ERP system, inside a CRM system, or a service management system, or even a collaborative tool that they're using every day to work on projects or work on things they're working on, like inside a Microsoft team or something like that. And then in the background, you need to make sure you have really tight information governance around retention policies, dispositions. Am I keeping the correct things for the appropriate amount of time? And AI is going to take those into consideration as well. So to that end, we have built a tool called Content Aviator that sits on top of our content platforms, really to bring the power of LLMs and generative AI to our enterprise content repositories. Really what that means, and I think our CEO coined it very well, conversation is the new search. If you think about the way that people have historically used repositories, it's largely about, show me every document related to something. But then I need to go and look at that document, read it, and interpret it. Well, what if I could get a machine to do some of that work for me? Then I can do things a little bit faster, a little bit better. The other ideal thing is, can I get people to the nugget of knowledge you're looking for without making them search experts? So again, if I can have a conversation with my content, maybe I'll get to that nugget of knowledge faster, because all I have to do is ask the system a question and I get the appropriate answer to lead me to the kind of content I need to do my work. So as many people have said in the past, this is a demo day, so I'm going to take you through some live software here. Let me jump over to that. So here's a view of the OpenText Extended ECM system. This is one of our flagship content repositories. I'm in this particular solution as an incident investigator. My job is to determine what happened as relates to things like aviation accidents, incidents, near misses, catastrophic events, and so forth. All of the information I need is inside this content management system from a document perspective. It is organized in a construct we like to call business workspaces in our system. By the way, this screen you're looking at can be completely configured. So as people log into our system, the experience they get is relative to their particular position or their particular job. So as an incident investigator, this is the dashboard I get. So one of my jobs recently is I'm brand new. I've been asked to spin up a new team on an investigation that happened in the past, so I can give a presentation about that and inform other people about what the details of that investigation are. But as a new investigator, I don't know where I might start on doing that. And I might have to do this for several different ones. So let me drill into one of these incidents. You may recognize it as I go through it. But if I drill into that, this is where we get into the business workspace of a given incident. And then this landing page is also very configurable, but I can tell who was on the team that investigated or worked on this incident. I got some data about that incident. This could have come from a leading application like an ERP system or an incident management system. Again, the reason is we want to take this data and apply metadata to the documents that we're storing. Can even have some creature comfort things like where did this incident occur and a map of where that happened. In this particular case, this was an aircraft water landing that happened in New York. As I click over to the Documents tab, this is all the documents related to that particular incident. And again, there could be several of them. If I just drill into this filter here, we can say there's a little over about 125 documents that I might need to peruse as part of this research I'm doing for this event that I'm going to speak at. So I could do the traditional thing. I could go up to this search bar and search for the documents I need and know what I'm looking for and have to read those documents. I could hunt and peck and traverse these folders and look for those documents. But what if I could ask a question of these documents? And this is where our Content Aviator capability comes in. So now against this set of documents, I can use our generative AI tool called Content Aviator, and I can start to ask it some questions. First thing I might say is, hey, tell me a little something about the documents inside this workspace. So the Aviator tool is going to look at all the documents and send it off to the LLM, come back with, here's what this workspace, what the documents in this workspace are describing. It's things about the plane. It's things about what happened in terms of damage, what happened in terms of events and so forth. And then I can start to drill down and ask more detailed questions. So I might want to see what were the initial findings of the original investigators. Oh, sorry. So Aviator is going to go and chunk through all of those documents and tell me, here's where the initial findings of what happened during the initial part of the investigation. The important part here is it's also bringing back the relevant documents where it found that information. So again, it's looking at all the documents in the system. It's also telling me, hey, this is where I got that information from. I can even drill down a little bit further. Tell me a little bit about the pilots. How much flight time they had? That's usually an important element about, when things happen in aircraft incidents, how much experience these pilots have. Again, you might be familiar with this particular accident, but we can see here that the captain had over 19,000 hours of flying experience, and the first officer had about 20,000 hours. We can even go down a little bit further. We know that as part of these investigations, there's sometimes, cockpit flight recorder, information that we gather as part of that. So let's ask the system about that. So is there a transcript of the CVR? In this case, again, I didn't put in the full name of what that report is. It'll have to know what that acronym is. And it'll, again, go through the system and find that stuff. And it so happens there is a cockpit voice recorder transcript of this. Again, it's showing me where those things are. And if I need to, while I've been doing searches against this entire corpus of content so far, I can actually drill down into a particular document and start to ask questions about that. So at that point, our system gives you a quick viewing capability into those documents. Again, you can see this is a 48-page document. There's lots of information, and I think if I jump to around page 15 or so, you'll start to see the actual transcript of what happened during that flight. This viewer also has some redaction and annotation capabilities, so that if any of this document doesn't have it at the moment, but if there were any redactions in there, Aviator's only going to bring me back stuff that I have rights to see. That's true also of the documents you saw in that workspace. I'm only seeing documents I have rights to see, and this is the kind of nuance between generative AI tools against public content versus enterprise content. So in this case, I'm just going to ask it, can it give me a summary of some of the things inside of this document as it relates to things that happened after takeoff. So this is going to take a little bit of time. It is doing this in real time. But if you think about all the information, how it's strewn across this particular document, how much time would it take me to read this document, consume it, understand it, summarize it, and then determine, again, based on what I read about it, what other documents do I need to look at? And as you can see here, it came back and gave me in a tabular form, here's all the events that happened after takeoff on this particular incident. And again, all it's doing is reading through this like a human being might, and then summarize those things so I can just get, again, to the nugget of knowledge I need to do my job at a given particular period of time. So that was just a quick demonstration of what Gen AI tools on top of a curated, managed, secure enterprise repository might look like. Really, where we're going with this solution is being able to, again, one of the things you just saw there is, can I get summaries of documents? Can I do search, not only based on questions, but also based on tone and those kinds of things? One of the things I didn't show you in the demonstrations, if these documents had been in different languages, even though I only speak English, if some of those documents had been in Spanish or French, I could still ask the system a question. Even if the documents were written in a different language, I would get the contents of those documents back in my native language, and my question would be answered. As we progress with this kind of technology, we're going to be able to also generate new documents out of the stuff that you just saw inside of the system. So maybe at some point I'm going to say, well, based on what you just told me, can you create a summary of that and put that into the system somewhere? Can we start to incorporate data from other applications like ERP systems, CRM systems? Can I get people to navigate to the correct place within the system? And then ideally, can we kick off business processes automatically based on the kinds of questions that we're asking? And then beyond that, we might be able to even configure the system to do things itself. For example, the next incident that occurs, maybe something will trigger the automatic creation of a space to put those things in with all of the discipline. So these are the kinds of things we're trying to get at with this technology. And this spans departments, this spans industries, it spans use cases. So I showed you one for an incident investigator. This could just as easily been a maintenance worker in an oil and gas or utility company looking at standard operating procedures. It could have been a banking user looking for conditions of fraud inside accounts. So there's several use cases that this could be applied to in the future. And we do have an ability for folks to go and take a look at this live and get hands-on and test the solution for themselves. So we can send links out to this after this presentation. And with that, Sasha, I'll take any questions or any comments anyone has.
Thank you so much, Craig. I think that is really interesting insight into the future of automation and what comes next. I was hoping we could talk a little bit further about how we can refine the way that we think about search. We talked about conversation being the new search. How
Mhm.
do we develop those skills to move from what we've been doing forever in terms of just searching for information to actually communicating with information like Content Aviator?
So I think you need to break down that question just in kind of a couple different parts. The first thing is I don't want to diminish the value of traditional search. That will always need to be there, and it will always have a place. For example, I think I mentioned a couple times, we're looking for everything, for example, that you created in the last 2 weeks related to something. That could
Mm-hmm.
either be an explicit search, and that's going to give you a pretty rigid and finite sort of result. Conversation search ideally will get there. Again, I think we heard Dan talk about things like hallucinations and so forth. That's why we spend so much time about this notion of curation, so that we're only pointing the tool at a particular corpus of content that is well curated to minimize and reduce the notion of hallucinations. To more directly answer your question, I think this is just another tool in the tool belt. So depending on the kinds of questions you're trying to ask of your content and the job you're going to do, I think you're just going to pull the screwdriver out on one day, you're going to pull out the hammer on the other day. This is just another set of tools in the arsenal to help a user get to the exact piece of information they need to do their job. My opinion in terms of the conversation new search, I think this is just much like full text was back in the day. This is just the amplifier to search. So I might, for example, use traditional search to get to a finite set of results, and maybe I run generative AI against that to get the final nuggets of knowledge. So that's an example of how that could be used.
I think that makes sense. For someone who isn't familiar with AI and has been kind of using paper documents, how are they going to go into this transition and what's the lift here?
So I would say again, we even in 2024, we have not gotten rid of paper yet, right? So a lot
Yeah.
of the vendors on here, us included, we still help customers with capture, with intelligent document processing solutions, so forth. I would say, and this kind of started during the pandemic, we saw a renaissance in capture. Because we weren't able to go into the office anymore, I couldn't reach over next to my desk, open a file cabinet, and grab that piece of paper. Turning the paper into electronic became important. I think this will be yet another driver to get paper into electronics so that we can take advantage of tools like Gen AI to, again, help further business process. So I guess the answer is all the way back from the 1990s on, I think there's immense value in turning paper into electronic for use cases like this. I would say that it's going to accelerate, again, whether or not we can get access to those things because we don't have physical access, or because we have use cases like this that can take immense advantage of this kind of capability.
Yeah. We looked at this case, which, is vaguely familiar. Um, when someone is looking to go through a wealth of information and use
Mhm.
something like Content Aviator, is there a place that you recommend that they start in terms of just making sure it's organized, or is it really depending on a case-to-case basis?
So I'll just put out a blanket statement, and again, I'll say this with a bit of bias because I've been doing this for a long time. I think there's a lot of value in organized things in a content management system with metadata, with security, and so forth. That being said, it should be business relevant, business critical. So there should not be a muffin recipe or something like that in the system, unless that's the business that you're in. It should be business critical content that needs the discipline of a content management system. That being said, I think, again, when you look at generative AI against content repositories, I think we need to be very cognizant about the questions we're trying to ask of the system and the business
Mhm.
process we're trying to enable. So it
Mhm.
is not a silver bullet necessarily for a particular thing. It is an enhancement tool. It is what it'll be a silver bullet for is getting you to the right information much more quickly, perhaps, than you were able to do before using other means. But I do think you do need to have that discipline beforehand. So again, when you look at the difference between consumer level tools, it's going against a big corpus of content that's somewhat non-specific and doesn't have security or other considerations around that. Again, enterprise content is different. We need to make sure that people have the right access to things and that they're getting the answers relevant to their role, relevant to their access. And those are the kinds of things that we're going to need to, sift through, as this starts to proliferate through enterprises.
Yeah. And so for the customers who are looking for a solution, what should be the first question they ask when they talk to your team?
Well, I think the first question you need to ask is unstructured content somewhat out of control in your environment, and is it untethered from a business process? Whether that's an accounts payable process or an asset management process in the field, an oil and gas utility company, or if it's a bank, it's unavoidable. There's going to be unstructured content to a business process. So we'll always have data inside a database that's well structured, but the artifacts of those processes are likely still going to be documents for the foreseeable future. To the degree that we can tie those to business process, it'll just make people's lives a lot easier. Ideally, also, if we can keep them in those environments where content just becomes incidental to those processes.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Craig. Thank
Thank
you
you.
for OpenText for joining us today. We're always delighted to have them as partners with us and have been longtime partners with AIM. I welcome everyone to reach out to Craig and his team. Craig, if you are open, put an email in the chat for everyone to be able to reach out to if they're looking for a solution.
Absolutely. Thank you very much.